All right, it's time for the next blog post. And one of the things I think I mentioned in one of the last posts as it relates to I don't want to be encouraged is the value of being out in God's creation, seeing God's creation, hearing the sounds. Like listen to the wind here. See if you can hear the wind. And if you just sat and listened to the wind blowing through the trees, hear the wind blowing through the trees. There's something healing about being in God's creation, hearing the wind, and just being around God's creation, away from noises that are man-made. I've heard some people call that noise pollution, and I haven't really thought a ton about it, that language, but I have found that I reconnect with God outdoors, and that I really sense a closeness to God. And when I'm away from any man-made sounds, I find myself being refreshed and renewed. So I came across this baby possum. I'll show you. Do you see this baby possum? This baby possum, if you just look at my hand, it's quite a bit, and it's playing dead. It's not dead at all. Let's see if I can, you can actually see the ears moving, but just watch, see if I can get the possum to get up and move a little. See that? So I thought it was like a little mouse before, like a little mouse. And that thing beautiful? So here's what's interesting about this baby possum to me, is that this possum is so vulnerable. So vulnerable. And where we're talking about, I don't want to be encouraged. I think I said on the last one, I don't want to be encouraged. Well, some people are like, I don't want to be encouraged. Leave me, get out of here. And what happens so often is it's the vulnerable that have been hurt and wounded. And I'm one of them. So as the Lord has healed me up from a vulnerable spot as a premature baby, put away in a lab closet to die. I don't speak as someone who is just looking out at the rest of the world. Like, I was that vulnerable person. And, we could all probably tell stories of being rejected or hurt, bullied, those kinds of things. And I think of those things as someone that didn't read well when I was younger, and people would make fun of me in like first, second, third, fourth grade. I really remember third grade. There were some really difficult moments where people made fun of me for not being able to read as good as them. And I remember that really hurting deep, like deep, deep, deep. But just look back at this little possum. See this thing? Just little and vulnerable. It's scared. It's just the natural response of the possum. And I'm not going to hurt the possum. I just want you to see how cute this thing is, but very vulnerable. Very, very vulnerable. A beautiful little thing. And sometimes we behave like this possum is when a friend or, even God come to encourage us. Look at this. Just the mouth open. And we're vulnerable, subject to being hurt and wounded like this little baby possum. And not, really in a position to be helped. Now, just so that you know this full story, I put the possum in this popcorn bowl because the possum was going to potentially get run over and hurt where I found it. So I brought it to a safe place where it has a better chance to live. And the possum wasn't sure it wanted to receive my encouragement and my help. But I remember in the process, I was just talking to it with tone of voice, like, it's going to be okay. I'm helping you. And it curled up into like a little sleeping position and just rested while I brought it here. And I thought, if we could be that way with the Lord and with a close friend, where we just relax and we allow the truth and allow what I'll call unconditional love, God's agape love, minister to us, then we could potentially be free and be saved. And that's what's happened here. I try to bring this possum to a place where it could be free and where it could be saved. And it's going to be all right, little buddy. It's going to be all right. So I wanted to share with you, I was trying to think of some scripture that would go along with this, and wanted to share with you, I believe it's out of 2 Corinthians 12, 9 and 10. 2 Corinthians 12, 9 and 10. And as we think of this little possum, just remember that, but he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore I will boast all the more gladly about my weakness, so that Christ's power may rest on you. This is why, for Christ's sake, I delight in weakness, in insults and hardships and persecutions and difficulties. For when I am weak, I am strong. And so, you know, as I finish this post, I just want to say that just like this possum feels vulnerable, I thought it was a good illustration of how we feel sometimes. But how God's grace is sufficient for us when we're vulnerable. So Lord, I pray for those who feel like this little possum. I pray that those that are, quick here to be defensive, which is instinctive. I mean, it's just natural. The possum doesn't have to think about that. Lord, I pray that if we're that way, that you would help us to submit and trust you the best that we can, Lord. I pray that you would be with anyone that would be watching this, that would be hurting, that's vulnerable, that doesn't feel safe, that you would help them to feel safe in your arms, that you would help them to trust you and find freedom and peace. All right, little buddy, I brought you to a safe place. You're free, and you live and have a great life. Well, God bless you, and you have a great day.